Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet and of YouTube. Welcome back to Final Fantasy Chronicles of Eno. Quick heads up before I get into our player introductions. This is going to be a somewhat shorter session today because we're starting an hour and a half later than usual due to scheduling issues and a few points of miscommunication here and there. So, joining me today, we have our full cast of players. We have Hades Shadow 92 playing Thanatos, our male human Dark Knight.
I is tired, but I will persevere.
We have Lumina Starlight playing Rocket, the female cyborg chocobo warrior. We have Darkness playing Alistair, our male human paladin.
Hey everyone.
Oh god, that was loud in my ear for some reason. And last but not least, we have Tom117Z playing Neothil, our female Elvon ranger.
Hello.
So, where we last left off in this campaign, our intrepid band of adventurers had arrived in the capital city of the island nation of Mikatai. Lyrisai it is called, with the survivors from the now sunken island of Marasu that was destroyed by the now revealed to be Saran, who had been posing as an individual named Murasan to lull the party into other things, apparently. With Marasu sunk and the water crystal of darkness shattered, save for a small shard that was entrusted unto Mika, our party went about doing their best to save the survivors and refugees and get them to the capital for sanctuary and relief and help. During the process, they met with the leader, quote-unquote, of Mikatai, the Alpha, as he's referred to, and brought him up to speed on the situation and got it situated so that word would be sent to the leaders of the other nations of the growing threat. Additionally, the locations of, or at least potential locations of two more crystals that need to be figured out and potentially defended, the crystal of the wind crystal, a wind crystal that belongs to the Numo, and one of Ramu's lightning crystals, which belongs on the same island as the Mughals.
Did we ever establish it was the light or the dark on the Mughal island?
You do not know. You could probably guess, though, with what I've said in the past.
I would imagine light because Mughals, but...
Well, as it is, during all of this, the party's red mage, Mika Solwyn, the NPC party member, has been in a near catatonic state for the whole time due to Marasu being her home. It was where she was raised, where she grew up, where she learned white magic before moving on to learn black magic at the Academy City of Enomo. So she's been in a catatonic state as she processes the weight and gravity of her loss. And at the end of our last session, she finally snapped out of it with a tear-filled and shouted proclamation that she's going to kill Murasan and Saran for what he's done. And so, with that, we begin anew. So then, ladies and gentlemen, it is a new day. The sun is rising outside. It is clear. The day is yours. What do you wish to do?
Well, for one thing, remember the whole thing where I wanted to try and reach out to Bernard about Alice's boo-boo issues?
Ah, right. You wanted to do that while you were, like, asleep or something?
Well, how else am I going to talk to Panara Blackstorm?
All right. In that case, go ahead and make a finesse check.
Today is canceled.
Huh? All right, that was a reference to a thing from earlier.
Screw you, Diabolos. Today is cancelled. Your ordinary plans are on hold.
All right, so yeah, go ahead and make a finesse check for me to see if you can have the lucidity to try and reach out.
7.
Yeah, with your lack of experience in initiating these things yourself, that's not sufficient for this. Sorry.
Well, I'll try again next night, because we need to learn about Alice's problems, or we can't take him to the lightning crystal.
But yes, the sun has risen. What all would you like to do?
Well, first things first. Check in how the refugees are doing with Lauren.
All right. stepping outside to where most of the refugees have sort of been kept in a sort of ramshackle, impromptu, sort of sprung up refugee camp across the docks where there wasn't room for them to be taken indoors. It almost, at a cursory glance, could be mistaken for like a fair or a festival on the docks, but the moment you see the dour moods of everyone scattered around and the less than jovial tone in their voices, it's any illusions one could have of that very quickly become dispelled. But they seem to be faring fairly well, for the moment at least. They have shelter. They're getting food. Any with wounds have already been tended to, thanks to Alicer and others the previous day doing their work. Things seem to be going all right.
Aaron?
You find him sort of just going over a few points with Tam over by one of the docks. He looks tired and exhausted, hair very disheveled, and Tam doesn't look much better. And they look up as you approach. They're waiting for you to speak up.
I was waiting for them to speak first, but okay.
Okay.
Aaron? I suppose I know the answer, but how are things here?
They could have been a lot worse, but they're still far from ideal.
Done a head count of all the survivors?
It's in the process. We would have done so on the way, but it was very hectic and all of that, as you can well imagine. And I only had ready access to one of the ships.
I recall. Tam, we never got to check in with you after everything. How are you holding up?
I'm losing myself in the work, but I'll be fine. What about Mika?
Glances off to her side. It's been touch and go. I think Mika's there, is she?
She elected to remain inside. She's getting a bit of extra sleep right now.
Well, good news is she's talking again, but not particularly pleasant stuff comes out.
Just keep an eye on her for me, alright?
I already planned to, even if you didn't tell me.
Good.
Any other news?
Still no sign of Tam. We found his wife, though.
But no.
Vinar, right? My bad.
Sounds right there. Yeah. Well, is there anything you need of us? Because very soon, like the end of today, we're going to set off in the Little Wing full haste to Komogo. I don't feel comfortable waiting long where Saran is likely already on the move.
We've gotten things handled here, I think. You've done more than enough for us. We can never hope to repay you for all the lives you've saved.
Repay? You lost your island. I think you don't need to pay anyone anything.
We lost our island, but a lot of us could have lost a hell of a lot more if you hadn't been there.
Small comfort.
Well, being alive to get that comfort is a lot better than the alternative, so...
What do you intend to do when things are calmer?
For now, I'm just going to try and take care of my people. Once everyone's back on healthy footing and has their strength back, at that point it'll largely be up to them. I'll be sure to try and keep my eyes out for where the island was. If we're lucky, maybe the waters will recede and the island will still be there and we can go back and rebuild someday, but Right now we have more pressing matters.
Well, I wish we could help, but you know.
Right. You have crystals to get to. We can't hold you back from that. We can't let this happen to more people, so don't let us keep you. We'll be fine now.
We'll be back when there's calmer waters.
Good luck.
You too.
All right.
I'm gonna return to the others, discuss our next move. I also need to check in with Mikota
Okay.
about the ring.
Yeah, Mikoto. Right. Okay.
Mikoto.
All right.
Mikoto and Mikote.
All right. So you make your way. So in what order are you doing that? You're going to the party first or to Mikoto first?
Party first.
Okay. So you come back to the inn. I'm assuming everyone's still sort of in there.
Yep.
All right.
In there.
Yeah, we'll say in the common room, just sort of waking up.
You all awake, people?
As a
Yeah, I'm up.
can be.
Just been looking for my books. What's up?
Yeah, usual. Any further messages from Kyra or anyone else?
Nothing yet on the
I checked
Kyra
the
front.
books.
I wonder if they've... How close they're getting to a Nomo. Maybe they'll bring Athena with you and she can pest you more.
Huh. Maybe.
I remember she likes details. Story giving. Which
I'm
is
aware.
alright for you, Mr. Long-Winded.
Well, what's the plan of action, Nee?
Speaker there?
Yeah, she's sitting off to one side. Still being kind of quiet, but she is paying attention.
Oh, it's gonna... Person sit next to... Or sit at the same table.
Yeah, same table.
Laren has given us leave to... Well, leave.
All right.
You sure you're up for this?
Absolutely.
And maybe you should keep a hold of this. Gonna hold out crystal.
She eyes it critically for a moment and then reaches out and takes it.
Speaking of that crystal, we know any more about it?
Well, I happen to have a girlfriend who is very good at studying things. I think it'd be a nice change of pace.
She closes her eyes and casts Detect Magic. Or her equivalent. See, what was it called on her sheet? Let me double check. Yep, Detect Magic. And after a few seconds, she opens her eyes and lets off a quiet huff. I can't get a read on it.
Strange god elephant. Well, although a long voyage to Komogo,
Oh,
time for you to poke and prod.
it's a crystal of darkness.
Crystal of darkness that chose you. Hey, put hand on the shoulder. If there's anyone that can figure out the secrets of Galti power, it's you.
She tucks the crystal away into her pack. When are we leaving?
Soon, the little wing's been somewhat buffed out by the engineers. It's just one more piece of business I need to oversee with the court White Mage. Mikoto.
All right. should the rest of us go and meet you at the airship?
That would be for the best. If you
Right.
want to speak to Tam and Laren before you go, I mean, I think he'd like to see you perform her.
Yeah.
And your parents too.
Hmm.
Give them my love, yeah?
I will. She gets up and makes her way out.
She's not well. You know that, right?
Like I was in Vitae?
In a way, but in a way worse.
It's hard to judge pain and compare it, but I know the look in her eyes.
I do too.
Still, I got you for your rough patch. She got me through mine. Returning the favor is kind of what we do. Besides,
Just keep an eye on her.
you thought I intended otherwise?
All that hate isn't good for someone like her.
No, but I believe in her. More than anyone. Especially you, Miss Jump in the Lake.
It was one time.
Didn't he redeem himself for that when the island was sinking with those
I was
natural
gonna say, didn't
20s?
Let's say, I jumped off an airship to save her master, pretty much, right?
Yes, but if it was me, would you let that excuse give up on the taunting?
Just go talk to your mage, and I might have the little wing in one piece when you're there.
You better. Otherwise, it's catapults using to get there.
Don't worry, Captain. I keep an eye on him.
Catapult.
Fucking.
Thanatar. See, I think this is what Mika needs. Normality. Right.
So you want me to make racist cat jokes at her?
This is why we love to hate you and hate to love you.
Aww.
Get your ass to the ship. Right. I need to deal with other problems now. The patting where she keeps the ring.
Right. All right.
And I'm off.
All right. Very well then. So, Nee, you make your way through the streets of Lirasai while everyone else shuffles off to go and get the airship ready. You're let through upon your arrival at the castle gates. The guards recognize you from your past pass-through, and you get the impression they've been told that if you want entry, you are to be afforded it.
Feels familiar.
Indeed. You find yourself in the sort of central entrance lobby sort of room the foyer, I guess you would call it. You have, of course, the room that you know leads to the throne room up ahead and some doors off to the sides. You're not sure where you'll find Mikoto at present, though.
Simple, ask for directions.
All right. You turn to the nearest guard, sort of a strapping younger guy, and is like, if you go down that door and take a right, and he gives you directions. And before long, you're on your way. And soon enough, you come to a door that, just like the previous court mages you've talked to over your time adventuring, it is very unique. It has a sort of almost floral theme to it. And when you come up to it and, like, put your hand on it, the door sort of pulses for a bit, and you get the impression that there's a form of magic scanning you. But then a second later, the door swings open of its own accord. Peering into the room beyond, you are greeted to the sight of a The best way to describe it is almost like a greenhouse within a stone enclosure. There's a lot of plants scattered throughout, largely flowers that look like they have some sort of herbal or medicinal purpose. The air is very sweet and fresh and fragrant as you step in, and against the walls there are very tall bookshelves leading up to a domed roof with a very pretty chandelier coming out of the central top point, casting this warm orange glow over everything. Towards the back of the room, there's a few steps leading up to this sort of elevated platform in the back where you see what looks to be the living arrangements for the space. You see a very nice bed sort of with a curtain that's been pulled back to leave it exposed that you imagine could be pulled to obscure it. You see a dining table, some barrels with you're assuming are food supplies, a office-style desk, and a bunch of books just kind of haphazardly scattered about. And you can right now see Mikoto is at the dining table that she has with a half-eaten plate of what looks like crisped up fish and book off to her side, and she is writing down on a piece of parchment as you enter. Her ears sort of twitch and swivel in your direction, but she otherwise does not acknowledge you.
I approve of this little decoration. It's more pleasant than... Oh, I encountered the time mage in the Gaurian domain. That was trippy.
These things are more for the practical purposes, but they benefit from being pretty to look at.
She looks up at you.
Is there something I can help you with? I'm a little busy right now.
I apologize for the intrusion, but we're due to depart aboard the Little Wing for Komogo.
Mhm.
The crystal and everything. I wanted to make one last stop to see if there was any more information you could give us for crystals or otherwise.
In terms of the crystals, no, I'm afraid I haven't found anything else of note. I have been looking.
Thank you for trying. Hopefully, Lord Ramo can be of help if you encounter him.
I'm currently in the process of drafting a letter that I'll be having sent to Enomo, and hopefully someone there will have more information.
We could help with that. Mika has a book that instantly transmits messages to Enomo. Yeah.
Student then, is
If you
she?
want- Yes, though on leave. Technically, it is her lesson.
It's not an unheard of practice. Very unorthodox. But she wouldn't be the first one to have gone through it.
Well, to be fair, our situation is rather unorthodox.
So I've noticed.
But if you want, you could write up your letter in her book and it'll transmit there immediately. The professor she speaks with could see it gets to the right place. It would
Very
just
well.
expedite things.
Very well.
She reaches over to the letter, sort of folds it up
You're not allowed to read this.
as she passes it over to you.
I won't look.
Is there anything else?
I mean, she's not coming. She's wants me to transcribe it. Then I guess.
Yeah, she wants Mika to transcribe it as few eyes as possible.
I know it's a long shot, but I don't suppose you had a moment.
I had a spare one last night while I was waiting for
She nods over at the cup she was sipping from, which you notice the liquid inside is not coffee. It's more blue.
while I was waiting for that to brew.
A potion of some kind, I assume.
Marvel's better than coffee, and it's not addictive. Get that?
Sounds great, though. Never been particularly a coffee fan anyway.
The only downside is it gives you like half an hour of an intense headache.
So, did you find anything, or is my fate in
Well-
the hands of the Muggles?
Well, as I said before, the best object I can think of for the sort of effect you're aiming for would be a true phoenix feather or something equivalent. but I think I found something of an equivalent. I have no idea
Alright.
where you would find one, unfortunately, at least not specifically, but there's a type of stone, spherical in nature, sort of crystalline manifestations of Phoenix's variety of flame. Supposedly, from what I've seen and researched, there is a clan of the Bonga down in the greater Uzur desert who have a stockpile of the things. Use them as charms or something of the such. If you find yourself passing through the sands and you come across that tribe, maybe you could convince them to part with one, and then you might be somewhere.
1,000 clans of Bonga. And it's in the general area, so perhaps. Who knows? Maybe I'll get lucky and one of the crystals is located in the desert. I actually see that happening.
It's possible. Probably one of Ifrit's if so, but who knows.
It is within range of the Hellfire Pit. And the...
Yeah, that would make sense for him to keep one of his crystals on his doorstep.
Leviathan did.
Well, the entire ocean is Leviathan's house, but, well, whatever.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I know you didn't have to. Considering.
You're headed for Komogo next, are you not?
Yes. Ramu's lightning crystal of light, I believe.
If I may
Hello.
offer a point of advice on that front, then.
Regarding Muggles, most certainly.
What few Mughals you have probably met are, probably speaking, a very tame bunch compared to the norm. The Mughals of the Moggalarchy are notorious for their playfulness. You'll need to exercise a lot of patience.
Oh, Panatos is gonna love this. He already hates Muggles as it is. Thanks for the heads up. But, well, after all we've been through, if some playful Muggles is the worst we need to encounter, it might be a nice change of pace.
There are also very strange creatures on that island. Magical beasts. They do weird things. I haven't been there, but from what I've heard, fighting the monsters in that place is like being high on acid.
Ugh. I'll make sure not to mention that in my report home.
It's just
Thank you.
psychedelic. All right.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
good luck here with everything.
You as well. Don't go dying on us.
I don't intend on it. You never do.
All right.
Been there, done that.
All right. And with that, she heads back to her shelf to start working on something else, you assume. You're not sure what.
Alright. I'm heading up to the Little Wing then.
All right. Well then, while that's happening, everyone else, is there anything any of you want to do, look into, check in with, or accomplish before going to the Little Wing while you're waiting for Nee?
No, maybe just checking the ship over and making sure everything's okay.
I think we've overstayed our welcome here.
All right. Well, the Little Wing is definitely ready to go, or as ready to go as you can hope for it to be.
After flying her through a fucking hurricane.
Yeah, there's like still some marks where the paint kind of took a few nicks, but the ship itself appears to be back in fine flying shape.
I
all sort of-
approach the.
Yep.
So I just approached the dock and I was going to ask if everyone was already there,
Yep, then they all are. Everyone's sort of already gathered on the ship,
including Mika.
including Mika. She's up on deck, sort of looking into her book, her talking book.
Kind of cozy out to the side of her and kind of hold out the scroll.
What's this?
Mika to ask a favor. A letter to Anomo. Since I told her that you had a book that magically transmits everything immediately, well, expedite things and arranging against Suran and also seeking help for your people.
Alright, I should probably go and get that transcribed then.
How were they? Your parents?
Shaken and scared and unsure and basically begging me not to go, but otherwise fine.
They'll be safe here.
I don't think anywhere is safe anymore. When an entire island sinks beneath the waves in one day.
Hey. So long as we keep ahead of him, they'll be safe.
I hope
So
you're
on
right.
that note, is everyone boarded and is the ship ready?
Ready as it will be, Captain.
Stop calling me that.
To Moogle land.
Mekata said apparently these Mughals are even more mischievous than the ones we used to. So Thanatos...
Can we just fly over the island until we see the crystal?
I'm not sure that's how it works. I hate
mean,
to
is
ask this of you, but can you please try and not to swipe the first one you see in half?
I only promise to try.
Good enough.
Hmm.
Well,
It's what could
Get her
possibly
moving.
go wrong.
let's screw you.
Alright.
Uh,
And with that, you start getting into motion. You go through the typical undocking procedures, you go through the motions. You've only done it a couple times, but you pretty much have them down at this point. And after a little bit, the little wing comes away from the docking platform, is untied, and you turn to start making your way towards the Moggalarchy of Komogo. So, whereabouts on that island are you aiming to go?
Well, first I'm just going to approach town and see what we can see from the air. Whether there's any settlements or anything.
Alright,
I mean, the only thing of note on there is the forest and the mountain.
Still, there are people living there, these Mughals, so imagine they'd have some sort of structures.
Alright, so it's gonna take
Maybe
about...
the mountain?
Let's see here. It's gonna take about 4 days of flight, unobstructed, to get, that close to it.
While we're on the flight, obviously I'll set the helm whenever I need to switch everything. He just needs to fly straight. While I'm there, I'm going to keep trying to contact Nara.
Alright,
Each night.
alright. Go ahead and make for me another finesse check and give yourself an extra d6 because of the repeated attempts.
15.
Alright, so. On your second night of the journey, you're having a strange dream when you finally sort of realize lucidity in it. It's very unusual. It's full of bouncing like mushrooms and weird psychedelic shit. You seem to be your mind is preemptively preparing you for the weird shit you're probably going to be seeing on the Mughals Island when you sort of come to and realize this isn't real.
Did this work this time? Because I have no real clue what I'm doing with this spell.
Well, as of right now, you are simply lucid dreaming.
Hello? Or am I awkwardly shouting into a void and Emma's probably laughing at me?
A few seconds pass before Emma sort of walks into view next to you.
You're shouting at a void.
Wonderful. Well, at least you're not laughing on the outside. Appreciate that.
Lucid dreaming, I don't think, is really what we're supposed to be doing if we want to reach out.
Well,
Or at the very least, it's not all we're supposed to do.
there's always orange stars and amber. So, I assume my magic involves somehow.
She does reach
What if
out
I-
to you via a spell, so it would stand to reason.
I mean, you have a connection to me, so I wonder if vice versa. I could just find it, feel it. And he's going to kind of call upon what magic she has and I'll focus on Panara and try really bloody hard.
Okay, go ahead and make for me another finesse check, please.
12.
All right. It takes you a little while of sort of feeling it all out because you've never been the one to initiate one of these things, and you also don't know if Panara is even asleep right now. But after a little bit of sort of a clearing away the residue of the dream before it was lucid so that it's just, your interior mind space, you feel around a little bit on a subconscious level before you eventually find what I can only describe as like a string, a thread, sort of just drifting lazily on the edges of your subconscious that you sort of pick out as being out of place.
Needs good enough. Follow it.
All right. So you grab the thread and you start following it, and the moment your fingers sort of reach where your personal subconscious ends, if we think of it as a bubble with this thread poking in, the second your fingers sort of touch that point, it's like you're on a roller coaster all of a sudden as your consciousness is just lurched forward past that bubble. And for a moment, it's just a flood of orange light and varying weird imagery before you suddenly you crash through something that feels like glass almost, except not painful, and then come to an abrupt stop upright just as suddenly as you had gone surging.
Okay. What's she seeing now around her?
Looking around, you find yourself in a very, very different environment than what you were in previously. You see a vast, open, sort of not barren, but very dry-looking series of slopes that end in sheer cliffs that sort of rise up at sharp angles, creating this almost like saw blade serration texture across the landscape. You see the sun off in the distance on the horizon, and just next to where the sun is, you can see a massive spire of orange crystals that, looking at it, you can tell is not a natural formation. And looking around, you see other little studded growths of amber sort of poking up from the ground here and there. A
Finding
dry
the
wind.
nearest-
A dry wind sort of blows by, and after looking around for a second, at the top edge of the serration, the cliff that you're sort of on the slopes of, you see a familiar robed figure looking out towards that distant spire.
Huh. She's going to approach her mother.
All right. Approaching Panara, as you quickly identify her as, you recognize that she's wearing very different attire from when you've normally seen her. The robes you normally see her in, while definitely stylistic, appeared more basic than these. These are much more elegant and extravagant looking, a denotion you're assuming of her former high position and the status she once had.
We heard dreaming.
Yeah, and her hood is down and hair sort of drifting in the wind.
Mother?
She does not seem to have noticed you.
Kind of put the hand on her shoulder.
Your hand passes through her shoulder, and both of you shudder as a sudden intense chill rushes through both of you. Panara spins around to look in your direction, but like in the earliest visions, her eyes are sort of staring through you. What?
Right. Okay. Like before, my connection's not complete because I can't really do this yet. But you can if you can get the idea. Kind of touches her again.
She shudders again and backs off, looking around for a moment before...
Huh. Oh, I see.
And she lifts a hand and sort of her fingers sort of curl around a bit and her eyes focus in on you after that little vibration in the world around you.
Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this.
I think I need to work on it a bit.
Oh, absolutely. This is a sloppy entrance at best. I can tell. Look at you. You're fraying
Hey.
at the edges.
Give me a break. I'm working out a new spell for the first time. Maybe you can teach me how to refine it someday.
Perhaps.
This though. I was expecting amber stars, not this.
All the times I've usually appeared to you, I chose how I wanted to appear. Even when I was entering into your dreams, before I made contact, I usually cleared out whatever it was you were dreaming of. If only so that I could have your undivided attention. In this case, it seemed you didn't really have any such thoughts and just barreled in.
She looks over your shoulder.
Yeah, that's an accurate term.
It did feel like I was being dropped from the little wing.
There's like a gaping hole in reality back there.
Hey, I'm new to the whole magic thing. I kind of spent most of this second life shooting things. Still,
Well,
nice to learn.
if you're reaching out to me in this manner, I can only assume it's something important.
It is. Though first, this place, what you're wearing, was this the memories of how things were before? That's
I
right.
suppose.
She turns and looks back towards the distant spire.
I don't really remember what led up to this spot. What events in the dream preceded this, but
She looks down.
these are my old Ambermancer robes. And that's the city I called home.
Doesn't he recognize it at all, even like just a twinge of familiarity?
No.
Wish I could remember it, like I remember you. But then again, I suppose I did spend most of my time in my room, so...
In your room, around the estate. Yeah. You
Not
didn't
as
leave
many.
much.
Not as many memories to cling on to.
You
Like
certainly
you
didn't
and-
venture far enough to recognize this view, this skyline.
Wish I had. It's nice.
Hmm.
I mean, there's still fleeting moments of you and Father. I wish I could remember more.
When all of this is done, maybe I can show you. When we're lucid
I'd like-
dreaming, we can shape them however we so wish. It would be a simple matter to recreate things in such a scape.
I'd like that. To see the good times that we had.
Hmm.
I lost.
Then we'll have to wait, though.
She turns back to face you.
Anyway, well, little wings on
This is
course.
going to be very draining on you, so at this point I suggest we cut past the pretense and get to what you need.
Yeah. Little wings on course for the Mogalaki of Komogo. We've identified another crystal that Saran might go for. We're trying to secure it.
Is that so?
Yeah. But there is a small problem. Saran... Well, when we encountered Saran near the Garian domain, he implanted a parasite into Elizabeth, another paladin. It allowed him to implant thoughts, feelings, control her practically, turn her into a beast. Alistair used soul magic to take the parasite into himself. After that, it appeared to dissipate entirely, but it appears that there's something of it left, and Saran used it to create something of a shortcut into Leviathan's temple. That's how we managed to break through the barrier so soon.
Hmm.
My worry is that if we go in after the crystal and, well, if this isn't solved soon, something similar could happen, and that could lose us precious time.
Well, if the parasite itself dissipated, it would be easy enough to tell if any part of it had actually remained. What probably remained was the connection it formed between Alistair and Saran. Much like how the spell that I implanted in you to notify me of your soul's conjoining with a body creates the link between us that I've since built on. Alistair, having had that parasite in him, even for a short amount of time, would have created a link. Subtle, but present.
And Saran can use that just to hop to our location whenever he so wishes,
Indeed.
bypassing anything that stands in his way.
Indeed. At least that seems to be the case. I cannot say for certain, however, if it allows him perpetual awareness of your movements. I would hazard a guess and say probably not. The man is not omniscient. He was probably observing you before he appeared. If his attention is otherwise divided, you can still act with a degree of impunity without him breathing down your neck. But I do agree,
Still, if we
it should be removed.
help it, we can't. If we can help it, we can't take the risk if he continues watching and abuses it again. I wouldn't have Kumogo share Morris's fate.
Unfortunately, I have no link to Alistair, nor am I in any position to form one to try and cut the one he has to Saran. There's nothing I can do, unfortunately.
Well, as something of an expert on the soul, what would you suggest?
Well, obviously cutting the link is the important part. You would need someone who has that sort of capability, that sort of familiarity with soul magic. Or just the raw power to just drown it out.
Well, the person he learned soul magic from in the first place, Vise, is an option, but she's very far south.
And I get the feeling you can't afford that sort of time detour.
Not unless we happen to go in the area. I mean, Ramu himself, perhaps, but to do that we need to go to him, and that again gives us the risk. To make it easy. Of course, there's always a Nomo as well.
There is that.
The Archmages. So again, a detour to the north.
Well, maybe you can find someone among the Mughals.
Perhaps it'll be a priority. Failing that, we're either gonna have to leave Alistair behind, or take the risk and hope Ramu can sever it before Saran takes notice.
Well, whatever case, I wish you luck.
Yeah. Thanks. Just... I hope I get to come here someday. For real. I'll let you get back to your dreams.
She turns and waves her hand a bit, and the landscape around you begins to churn and shift with this deep rumbling sound. And after a few seconds of turning and churning, you're in an interior space of what looks to be an extravagant manor of some description. Very, very foreign architectural style. You see these abstract symbols and shapes sort of etched into the walls and the bases of the pillars. It all has a sort of darker color scheme. The floor beneath your feet is made up of evenly spaced amber tiles, through which you can actually see what you presume to be a basement below, just faintly visible through the orange.
Huh. Is this?
This was mine. As I remember it, at least.
It's different from the Athila estate. Bigger.
Well, when you have the power to mold dormant amber to your heart's content, you can get creative. You should get
There's
a move
plenty.
on. I mean to reminisce for a while.
Before she leaves, is gonna hug her.
Panara returns it.
Try and speak soon.
I will.
And with that, Nee's gonna tend to let go of whatever connection's holding onto the dream.
All right. You sort of snap back into your own mental space, and Emma's waiting for you.
Oh, there you are.
There I am. Were you not with me during all of that?
No, you just kind of flew off on your own. I tried to
Huh.
follow you, but it felt like I was being shoved up against a wall.
Well, so I managed it. Sort of. I mean, she did half the work.
Did you
was
learn
diff-
anything useful?
Well, we need someone who's good with souls to cut the link. Apparently, it'll be easy to identify with someone of sufficient power. It's just finding someone with sufficient power.
Hmm. Well,
We'll deal with that. You go.
maybe Alistair can do some introspection. I don't know.
Some magic on himself?
Maybe.
I'll suggest it.
Well, let's get a move on. We still need to get some rest. And then we got work to do
Aye.
when we wake up.
And then she
not?
sort of fades out and leaves you to your own devices.
Nee kind of returning to her dream, though her thoughts are kind of somewhat consumed by that manor and anything a little Aurelia.
All right. And as your lucidity and awareness that this is a dream starts to waver and fade and flicker back into absorption of what's happening, the manor that you saw, or an approximation of it, sort of rebuilds itself around you, and before long, you're living out the scenario of just running through the halls as a kid, chasing down some poor Zilaran servant who seems to be equal parts exasperated and entertained. All right. And the dreams after that, you do not remember.